order, and please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Are there any additions to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do have a couple of additions here. First one is under the consent agenda, under hospital warrants. The amount I'll give you here, so you can write that in. $587,519.45. 587,519.45 for hospital warrants. Excuse me. Under other business, I would like to add County Staff Appreciation Day information. And I did hand out information on that too, so County Staff Appreciation Day information. And Mr. Chairman, that's all I have.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, with those additions, I'll move the agenda.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, minutes of June 22nd, auditors warrants from June 25th, July 1st and 9th, and commissioner warrants with add-ons, hospital warrants and treasurer's report.
Move consent.
Okay,
I'll support that.
moved in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And Nick? Good morning.
Good morning. All right, first up for me today, the project updates. The only update I have right now would be for the box culvert contract number 5 in the Ruthven area. And we have a bid opening scheduled for 2 weeks from now at 10:30. Overlays are done for the year, so just wrapping up paperwork on those, and then hopefully next month I have an update on box culverts. Hopefully they'll be going by then. So that's it for now, though. Next up, I have a request to approve the final payment for our 2020 box culvert contract number 2. We've received final paperwork back. This payment would be for $4,202.41 to R&G Construction out of Marshall. Came in a little under the original contract amount. That's because they were able to leave some of the existing vegetation in place, so we didn't have to put erosion control on that. And then some of the landowners did their own fence, so those are the main factors as far as why we came in under on that one. So.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve final payment to R&G Construction.
Second.
Okay, moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. This is just a hunch of mine. I could be wrong, but we were asked by the people at MnDOT that kind of hand out or divvy out whatever the bond funds. They were asking for an updated priority list of what we'd like to see funded and what we can deliver, whatnot. So I did tell them about the 2 bridges by Island. The consultant is just about done with the plans. The plans are done. We did receive almost $500,000 in State Park Road funds. Hoping to get bonding to cover the other half, and it's probably $1 million or a little over $1 project. So hoping they might slide us some money our way. So that would be moved around in the 5-year plan then, but the reason why I think there might be something going on is they asked how soon we have projects that could be let. And I told them that as soon as we get funding for these, we could essentially start advertising. So that's worked for us in the past before. They kind of like that, so they can get some projects going out there and show the need for the money. So might be more to come on that. Cross our fingers, I guess. So
That'd be good news.
yeah, it would be. Yeah.
Once we get those two bridge projects behind us, then how are the rest of the bridges looking? I know here a couple years ago we had a few that were deficient. Are we getting caught up on those?
We are still in, if you remember at the road and bridge hearing, we kind of have that graph showing when they were built, just kind of like a bell-shaped
So
curve.
many at one time, yep.
We are past the peak of it and just kind of starting to come down. So there's still a pretty big need, but be interesting to see what it looks like in 5 years. I think we'll be really happy where we're at compared to where we're used to being, for need. So
But we've got none of them that are out of compliance at this point.
we have posted bridges, if that's what you're asking.
Right.
Yeah, and those, we generally put those at the top of our list. There's some of them that I'm not in any hurry to replace because the restriction is very, very minor, and it might be on a road that gets very little traffic. Another example is 9th Street. That one's posted, but that's on the ditch, and I don't know what's going to happen with the ditch. Posting is very severe, and the detour is very, very minor. So, for example, that one, I'm really not in a hurry to do anything with that one either. We'll wait till that deteriorates quite a bit or something happens with the ditch, then we'll go ahead with that one. But there's one north of town here on County Road 7. That one's posted. It's probably my top priority on our state aid road, just because that's like the bypass around town for overweight, overwidth, overheight loads. We get a lot of houses moved through the county from somewhere in South Dakota. They like to take that road. So, that's on our radar, but
But generally speaking, you feel pretty comfortable with where we're at with our bridges, especially get these two taken care of now.
We're better than we used to be. We're moving in the right direction. So
Thank you.
that's probably the best way to say that, I guess. So.
I think we're in a much better position than a lot of counties around us.
Yeah, and I give most of that credit to Dave. He saw this coming a long time ago and got really, really aggressive.
Right.
Probably 10 years ago he started that, and
Right.
it's helped a lot because, if other people are getting in that mode now, well, then there's all that many competing for that money, and, we got a lot of special funds, which is kind of like the leftovers or the unused that goes to places that have a lot of need. And so I'm really glad he did that. That worked out very well.
Mm-hmm.
Next up for me, I was approached by a resident about our dust control policy. He asked me to see if the board would be willing to increase the cost participation. Currently, we cost share 50% up to $250. He had a bill that was about $1,400. I think I need a copy of it. Shoot, maybe not. Either way, it was over $1,000 bill. I don't know how much he did though. He might have done, more than probably what we had in mind. I don't know. Looked like the prices were in line with historical prices. What he had to pay per gallon. That's what we've been paying over the last couple of years. So I'm not really sure why, but. He asked that I bring it forward. I guess that's up to you if we should increase that or not. I don't really have an opinion on the matter, I guess, so.
How many years have we had this policy in place? 3?
Adopted June 27th, 2017. So 4 years.
And
How
it's
much has the
limited.
prices increased since then?
I have our bills for the last 2 years. In 2020, we paid $1.40 a gallon, and in 2021, we paid $1.35 a gallon. I don't know why it went down, but it's just a nickel. I mean, that might have been fuel or where they had fuel contracted. I don't know. I didn't really ask. I didn't. Yeah. I don't know. I just pulled those two bills, and the last 2 years it's been steady, so I didn't ask a lot of questions why his is higher, if he did more or not. I'm sure I might.
I would guess he'd have to have done a larger area.
More.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Is there a requirement how much we do by a place? A minimum or a maximum or?
I would assume that they have a minimum charge. They're not going to come out to do 10 feet for their normal price. They're going to want a larger quantity, when he told me that it went way up, and that's when he said, would you talk to the board about it? I'm like, well, yeah, sure, I'll do that. But, then after that, I looked up our prices thinking that ours went up too, but they didn't. So now I maybe wish I would have said that, but,
What is your opinion of dust control overall?
I think this is a good policy. It's kind of set up for roads that meet the paving threshold, if you will, in the eyes of the state. It says we'll help with dust control.
I don't mean as policy, but I mean as performance.
Oh, it definitely does its job. It helps a lot. If you're driving around in the country and there's a spot coming up, you can watch in your mirror and see it almost quit when you hit it. So
Does it get bladed?
this year, we knew the spots that were coming. We made sure they had plenty of gravel. We made sure they were shaped up nice before they got sprayed. We tried to avoid blading it because once you blade it, pretty much ruins it. Not always, but pretty much. Eventually, after so many vehicles, it'll get so potholey you'll have to blade it, but we avoid it at all costs because it can ruin it.
That's the trade-off, either dust control or potholes.
Yeah.
And people have to be aware of that,
Mhm.
I had somebody complain to me about potholes in front of his, because he had dust control, because they didn't blade it.
Oh, yeah, well,
What do you want? You want dust control or you want potholes?
Yeah. Yeah, we skip blading them until we absolutely have to because we plan on it ruining it. I think some of it's still there and it still helps, but essentially we don't want to wreck that for people. So, like I said, this year we gravelled them, made sure they were shaped up nice. And then, before the dust control so we could get as much as we possibly could out of it.
I don't have any objections to the policy, but I don't think we need to pay any more for it.
To me, the policy is already fairly limited as to where we will do it, because it's based on traffic volume. And there's really only, 2 roads in the county that qualify?
Yes, only 2 come to my mind. If there was somebody else asked for it somewhere else that was close, we'd maybe try to do some type of traffic count to see, to make sure that, they shouldn't be included too. But, I think it's only 2. There's not much that qualifies in the county.
I mean, just the fact that it's so limited to begin with, and we're not offering anything to the others, I don't see how we could increase it when you're not doing anything for the rest, and probably couldn't afford to, because if you did it for everyone, you'd be spending more on that than you would on,
Yeah, I think before my time, the county used to do that whole road. Is that
It's-
is that in your time? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think there was a time when they did briefly, but
Yeah,
they kind of got away from
I
that.
think that was really expensive, like
It was.
17,000
It
or
was.
something a year or something crazy like that, but.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I'll just tell them we're gonna keep it where it's at then, so.
Nick, to apply the calcium chloride, it doesn't really take specialized equipment, does it? It's just
Yes, it
a regular
does.
sprayer, isn't it?
We have a company hired to do it. Usually it's BX Civil and Construction I think they're out of Del Rapids. They have a special tanker truck with the spray bar on the back, and they come up and they drive up and down the road, and apply. It's kind of looks like a water truck, but it's for salt water essentially. So we don't have any equipment for doing that.
Terribly corrosive on the equipment that.
The calcium chloride is.
Yeah.
You'd have to replace it every year.
Yeah, it'd be rough.
I was going to mention too, at the NACO conference, they had a session about, they have a soybean-based product now that can be used in place of the chloride, and they claim it's more environmentally friendly and.
I think it's been around for quite a while, actually. From what I know of that, I've seen it used a couple times, and that got really potholy,
Okay.
like worse than calcium chloride. But that could have entirely been the condition of the road beforehand. I don't know. This is back when I was in high school. I worked in a tire shop, and one of our customers applied that soy oil, so that's how I.
Then there might be a cost difference too.
Yeah, there's other products too. I think magnesium chloride, I think, is one of them. I've never seen that used, but that might be better on vehicles than calcium chloride. But I also think there's a reason it's not popular, so.
But they mentioned that any chloride, leaching into water is not necessarily a great thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm not sure on the environmental impacts behind it, but, okay.
Then you go back and look at the label, and some of them, remember here a while back, you had a bottle that had that in it?
Right, yeah, there's actually bottled water that has calcium chloride in as an ingredient. The Nestle brand,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Yeah, it's on the label.
And when I saw that, I just thought, we're never gonna consume this product. I mean, if that's what we use on our roads for dust control, why would you wanna drink it?
Okay. Well, I would imagine it's a really small dose, but.
I'm guessing, but just I thought it was odd when
Yeah.
having to look at the label and you're thinking, what, there's something more than water in a water bottle?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Luke showed it to me, and I was really shocked.
Well, I'll have to look for that next time. Yeah, that's probably why they do it, so. Yeah. Okay. Next up for me, if you remember, I brought up a while back that old bridge at the landfill, that metal truss bridge that we have a resident that's trying to purchase. Long story short, the DNR must not have documented good enough when they got it, and it's going to be too big of a pain for them to deal with it now. So they're going to send me a letter saying that they consider it ours. I don't have any use for it. So I guess I would just assume, assuming they send us that letter, I'd like to start advertising to sell it and just.
They just like sealed bids or run it on their
Not
website?
sure yet. I almost wonder if we should put it on that min bid site.
That'd be the safest.
Well, the reason for that is if they'll let me drag it out long enough. I feel like usually they want it gone in 2 weeks. But if they let me drag it out for a month, I could maybe try to send it out, if it's possible, to the entire state from my mailing list, thinking that maybe there'd be a city or somebody that would maybe be interested in it for something, but maybe that's just overcomplicating things, I'm up to whatever,
How long of a span would it
I'd
accommodate?
have to measure it again.
Yep, and would it handle 10 tons?
I sure wouldn't think so, because they think it's back from the early 1900s. So, if that thing's been outside for over 100 years, boy, I don't think.
And the
I'd
reason
mess
I
with
ask
it.
that is with the Casey Jones Trail, there's always a need for bridges for the trail. But those are required to be a 10-ton bridge.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if that would be possible, that could be repurposed for something like that or not.
I think it was originally saved for that, and then it just, they didn't want it, or,
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't ask too many questions. I don't know how much I really want to know about it, so.
But as far as the disposition of it, obviously it's surplus to us. We've got no need for it. So
Right.
yes, let's go ahead and get rid of it. But if we can find a use for it other than scrap, so whatever you think you can do as far as getting it moved.
Scrap might be the highest purpose for it, though.
It could very well be.
Scrap prices are coming up again. So.
You know,
Yeah. Well, I guess the scrap iron guy could bid on it too.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
But if they probably don't have access to that state outfit, state bid, whatever.
Well, on the state website, anybody can bid on the state website.
Yeah, but you gotta know to check it though is the problem.
Right.
You know, you wouldn't necessarily expect to see something like this pop up on there.
Yep, or even with our Pipestone County website, maybe we can go ahead and just post it on there as well, too.
Yeah, we can put it on there.
It didn't cost anything.
No.
Right.
Are we gonna have another surplus auction coming up? It's been a couple of years since we've done that again.
We have some stuff we could throw on there.
So maybe it's time to do that again, I don't know. In like, last time we did in conjunction with the hospital, we had it out at the fairgrounds.
Yeah, we have some things that, well, ours might be better on that min bid site though, because a lot of it's like highway construction specific, you know. One thing, we still have our old printer. We kind of put that in the conference room, and I'm not in there very often. I honestly keep forgetting about it, but that I would put on that auction. Somebody locally might want it. I think Bill said he didn't know if there was really any value to it because of how expensive the toner is, but
Yeah.
whatever. If we get $10 for it, or 100 or 500, great, whatever, you know. So,
Mr. Chairman, if we were going to auction anything, I'd recommend we would do it in conjunction with another multi-party auction
Yeah.
with Livermont instead of trying to have our own. The costs are
oh,
pretty high when we start doing it ourselves, and you know, some of the stuff we have really isn't, you know, I wouldn't say not has some value, but not a
Right.
lot.
Not
But if you
enough
get
to
it in
cover.
conjunction with something else going on, you might get a few more people looking at your
Right.
product. You know, and I think they're up to 18-20% fees on whatever we sell, you know.
well, if
I
county's
think
gonna,
Livermont,
Higher, yeah, so it's like,
I think Livermont might be.
He's at 30, I think.
Yeah.
okay.
But yes, good, very good point, Steve.
Minbit has its place. I mean,
Yes.
we did very well on that equipment we sold.
Yep.
Yeah,
Bobcats and that type of thing. We might be just very surprised if we put the bridge out there and see what happens.
Well,
We're not.
and like I said, that
No.
last combined one we did, that had a lot of hospital equipment, and that was, you know, we don't have that volume of stuff from there again, because that part of that project's all done, so. I don't know how that, whenever it turned out, did we cover our costs on that one? I don't know.
I don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah,
We have a few things. Anything that's electronics generally gets, end of life is recycled, not resold.
yep,
And obviously, we don't want to sell anything that has a memory stick or any type of memory in it at all that would have to be wiped and things like that, so. But by the time we're done with electronics, it's pretty well
yep,
end of life,
right,
you know, that
right.
type of thing, but.
But back to the bridge, yeah, it's surplus, so there's no use for it, let's go ahead and get rid of it. If it goes to a scrapper, that's fine too, so if we wanna talk to Bill and put it on our website, and then put it on the min bid, whatever, so.
Okay.
What we did with the Bobcat, we put a link on our website to the Minbid site.
Yep,
Yeah.
So we can do that again too, and we tried to sell the ambulances that way and that other equipment, we could do that.
yep,
I guess what I'm looking for is then, assuming that they do write me that letter that they said they were going to, I just wanted some
Gotta
type
have that
of.
before
yeah,
we
yeah,
can
we
do
better have
anything.
proof it's ours before we sell it.
Yeah, definitely. So,
We like you, Nick, but we're not gonna come visit you in jail, so let's.
okay.
That's right.
Well, maybe, well, if I'm just in this one, right, I'm close then, but no. So I guess mainly I was looking for permission to, assuming we get that letter from the DNR, for permission to go ahead and start advertising it for sale.
In fact, Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion that we authorize Nick to go ahead and dispose of that bridge when we've got clear.
Whatever is the best
clear
match.
ownership.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll support that.
Yeah.
Okay, moved in second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Right, next up, I have a mutual aid agreement with Lyon County. I don't believe it's been to their board yet. Their engineer called me late last week asking if we happen to have anybody available to help them with overlays. They're thinking they're gonna be short-staffed, so we didn't really have much time to iron out any details on this. This, if you recall, we did this agreement with, I think, with Murray County a couple years ago. I think we have one in place with Rock, I'm not sure, and I know we have one in place with Lincoln. So whether or not we do any sharing now, I just thought, well, maybe if we can get this in place, we're available to help each other out then, so. It's the same agreement as the Murray County one that we approved. I literally just changed the names.
So this is with highway workers or with engineering?
I don't think it specifies, actually.
Number 2, it says it's
Yeah.
respective engineering equipment and personnel.
Yep. So yeah, it looks like it's engineering. That was the intent, for the
Right.
project inspectors. Yeah, who knows? It's possible that someday maybe there'd be like a floater position between a few of the counties, and whoever's got construction would have that person. I don't know. You never know. That's kind of a big picture idea, but
Well, and this of course goes back to our mutual agreement back when Dave, as engineer, covered both counties as well too. And I love that
Yeah,
spirit
me
of
too.
cooperation. That works well. I feel as long as your staff can afford the time to help out without hindering any of our projects, I think it'd be great.
Yep, and we don't, we have it set up, we don't force any of our staff to go do that, it'd be long days or whatever, we offer it to them, But yes, we've utilized this with Lincoln County a number of times. I think we did it with Murray County for a little bit, but I mean, it's just, when you need the help, you need the help. And usually there's not a whole lot of warning coming up. It's like, hey, so-and-so got sick or whatever, had to go home sick today. Do you have anybody tomorrow that can by chance come over and help us out? And then, yep, sure. And then, they pay us our mileage and our time, and
And if it happened to turn out that there'd be overtime involved because
They
of
pay
travel,
that.
whatever, they cover all that as well
Yes.
too.
Yeah.
But does it pose any concerns at all with our labor contracts at all? No.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, board members, these are, mutual aid agreements are very helpful to have ahead of a disaster too. And
Absolutely.
instead of trying to do it after it's happened, you've already got them on file, ready to go, and you have those agreements ready. This is obviously not a disaster, but, those things do happen, and floods and tornadoes and things like that, where we may need their equipment, they may need us, and having it in effect makes it a lot easier for requesting a FEMA reimbursement too.
And it just fosters a good working relationship with our neighbors. I'm
Yep.
certainly in favor of this, so. Are you looking for specific action on this?
Yeah, you'd have to approve it. Now, keep in mind, it's possible that they might see some wording in it they don't like, so I might have to come back and get it amended or whatever, but, yeah, I think you'd need to act on it, and then, the signature page on the back has me, or the county engineer, and the chair for each county. So we would need to sign this.
I'll give you, there's a couple minor typos that could be corrected on here.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Nothing that significantly changes the out.
okay,
One's just a duplication of wording and one's just a missed letter.
okay. So we can approve it
Yeah.
with those typo
Yeah.
changes? Okay, yeah, if you give me those, I'll change that and I'll send it back to you.
Okay.
Or send it to Steve and he can put it down here for when you're up there.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make that a motion.
Okay.
Dan will second.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
All right. I think I'm actually gonna save the 5-year plan for last, and I'll just skip to my maintenance updates quick to get them out of the way. Over this past month, we've been doing just pretty much routine work, mainly graveling, spraying, and culvert repairs. Then upcoming, I know last month we wanted to get working on the shoulders on 18 and 9. We didn't end up having time for that, so we're gonna try to get to that this month. We'll do some more graveling. Hopefully we can complete mowing. And we have some culvert separations to work on, so that's my maintenance update. Side note, you'll probably see a bill coming through for AutoCAD Lite. It's gonna be about $800. It's for 2 licenses. Just as a reminder, we used to buy our AutoCAD and they don't let us do that anymore. They make us buy a subscription. So I think this is the 2nd year of that process, but just wanted to give you a heads up that we can't buy it anymore and run it into the ground. We actually have to buy the subscription every year, so. All right, well, that brings us to the 5-year plan then. All right, thank you. And I do have the wrong year on the bottom there. The date's right, but it's 2021, so, sorry. Didn't catch that in time. So. All right, so the first year here, 2021, is, I don't know, more of a recap of what we've done thus far this year. Not much variation going on here, but so first up, these would be the roads that we overlaid. As you can see, County Road 15 by Jasper, County Road 9 through Edgerton, County Road 3, and County Road 7 by the East County line, and then County Road 16 from Hatfield to 30, and County Road 16 from County Road 10 to Lincoln County. We had a number of box culvert contracts. Let's see, the one up in the northwest part is complete already. And these 3 here are under contract. And the one by Ruthven is the one we're advertising for right now. So 2022, we're looking at the seal coat project. Then a number of overlays. One of them on the South County line, or County Road 1 from Jasper over to Rock County 11. County Road 6 from Highway 23 to County Road 18. County Road 8 from Highway 75 to Holland. County Road 10 from South Dakota to 75. And County Road 56 from Pipestone down to County Road 2.
On that County Road 8, you are planning to do something on those vertical cracks before you do it, or?
No, I'm afraid if we fill those, sometimes if you have a bunch of crack sealer in them, that the bituminous will heat that up and pop them out.
Okay.
So when it opens up again, we'll just try to make it a point to stay after that with crack sealer and see what that does, see if that helps at all. Otherwise, it'd probably take a full-blown regrade in there. And that'd maybe get it, but we're talking probably hundreds of thousands to do that.
Right.
So that's our plan for right now. We're gonna try that and see what happens.
Okay.
Say, Nick, going back to County Road 1,
Yep.
you're gonna quit at the Trotsky corner there, what we call Trotsky Corner.
Okay.
Then there's about 1.25 miles yet to 75. Is Rock County gonna pick up and do that stretch? Because that's really getting bad.
Originally, we planned on, I talked with them and we planned on working out a way to do it together, leave it, see, we would probably let their project or something like that, just so it gets done together. Overall cheaper, you got more quantity, it's one project, a contractor isn't coming in for one little stretch. But he called me this spring and said they can't wait. They're doing it this year.
Okay.
I think he said they're gonna mill out 3 inches and put in 4 or something like that, but they're gonna do some major work to it this year, so.
That's 1.25 miles is really bad.
Yeah, it is. They replaced their box culvert last year, so.
Yeah.
I'd never asked for a date on when they plan to do it, but I think there's roadwork signs out there already, if I remember right, but yeah, they're gonna do their stretch this year, so. So we have 7 bridges we have identified we'd like to replace. First one's on County Road 2 by Island. The next one's on County Road 20 by Island, and those are the 2 I talked about earlier today that I think there's actually a chance maybe we'll get some money this year yet. I don't see them getting built this year, but we might be able to let them, so, get ahead of next year's work, then hopefully we get better pricing that way, so. Another one would be for Sweet Township. Then we've got one on our County Road 61, south and west of Hatfield. Another one on our County Road 63 between Hatfield and Edgerton. Another one on our County Road 83, which is the one we just traded with Grange Township, south of Holland. One east of Ruthven by the Murray County line. And that's it for what we're proposing to do next year. 2023, we have another half dozen overlays. One would be County Road 2, from that bridge we talked about over to Highway 75. This project's been delayed already because we don't want to. This segment encompasses that bridge we want to do on County Road 2, so we'd like the bridge to be done first. So as soon as that bridge is done, we'd like to overlay that segment of road. Our County Road 5, it's 2 mile stretch west of Pipestone. County Road 7 from 13 to 15, or CAS. County Road 13 from Highway 30 up to County Road 7. County Road 15 from 5 to 7. And then our County Road 54 in Island needs it as well. Box culverts, we only have one we're proposing for 2023, and that's on our County Road 55, south of 2. As the 5-year plan gets out, as you'll notice, there's not as many culverts on it, but it seems like some start deteriorating faster and they've got a way of jumping up the list. So just because you don't see much on here doesn't mean we won't be doing much those years. I would imagine there'll be something that'll come up. So 2024, we'll be doing another seal coat project. There's also another group of overlays. We'll be looking at the Valley Road, County Road 11 from 16 to 18 up by Ruthven, County Road 12 from 23 over to the Lyon County jurisdictional limit, 16 from Holland up to 10, County Road 23 in Ruthven, and County Road 92 in Ruthven. Also have a group of box culverts here. The one is our County Road 7. That would be the over length, over width, whatever you want, over dimension essentially. Bypass route around Pipestone. Then there's a culvert on County Road 70, which is right by Veterans Park. And 2 of them up on County 75, kind of up towards Verdi. 2025, looking at doing another group of overlays. One is County Road 4 from Cargill out to 13. That's the road we just widened out last year. Then our County Road 13 from Jasper up to 2. And County Road 16 from Holland south down to 6. County Road 17 from Edgerton up by, if you're familiar with the area, it goes by a water treatment plant, and then the blacktop ends at the bridge down there. So it'd just be an overlay. It's no additional paving out there. Also, County Road 18 from John Deere up to County Road 8. That's a big stretch, as you see. We did get approved for some federal funds for that one. So yeah, our federal allotment would be picking up the tab on that, and that'll be a really expensive project, but it'll be a nice project. It's a big, nice long stretch there. So. Then we County Road 59 through Trotsky. That's definitely in need as well. Our box culvert group, we have one on County Road 4, east of 75. 2 on 15 on the gravel stretch north of town. 1 on County Road 15 up by Verdi. That one was just rated, it didn't get posted, that's good. I think next time it gets looked at, I'm afraid it might get rated, so I kind of keep that one in mind, because that's really the only paved good route up in that area heading north to Verdi, so any detour would be gravel, so I do, that matters to me, I keep that in mind. We want to make sure we got decent access for everyone, so. County Road 25, we need to extend that box culvert before we widen that road out. And then our County Road 75, north of 10, there's a culvert up there that's in need of replacement. So that takes me to our improvement projects or reconstruction projects. And currently we don't have the money we had to slide these back. I'll cover that in a little bit here, but just to list them off. The ones are County Road 10, we'd like to regrade and widen that from County Road 16 over to Highway 23. Next one would be County Road 17. We want to narrow up the inslopes on that a little bit, tile it, add a bunch of gravel to it. That'll hopefully help with the soft spots and make that a stronger road. And then our County Road 25 widening. That'd be the last one. So after running the numbers on our needs as we see them here, we end up about 4.7 million short of what we need to do all these projects. We currently don't go negative until that last year, and it's mainly due to those last 3 projects I listed. So like the overlays and everything, as we had them slotted in there, we can fund those. The reasons for the shortfall would be a reduced funding due to COVID. Less people were driving to work, so they sold less gas, and that's where our funding comes from. So another reason for this shortfall, our estimates are for the 5-year plan are typically higher than what we get for bid prices. We do that to make sure we don't run short on funds. And I inserted a graph here. In the early 2000s, we had a bunch of overlays, really similar to the bridge problem we have now. Overlays, 20 years is about all you're going to get out of them, oftentimes less. So, as you see, looking at the year they were originally done, we're getting hit really hard right now in our 5-year plan with what we need to do for overlays. So some notes and thoughts I have on this. As far as our funding goes, I expect that to return closer to normal. But I kind of did worst case scenario, and I used our reduced funding for the next 5 years just because I don't think it's going to go down. Another thought here, I don't expect our construction costs to be as high as our estimates, so that'll help with this overage too. By the end of this current 5-year plan, we'll be through our big group of overlays, so we will have money to dedicate back to road projects instead of just our overlays. I think it's possible there may be some type of stimulus money from the government for some projects. So we, in that case, we'd have ours already identified. The big one by Ruthven, that one's already surveyed and everything. So, so then, like I said, right now we project a $4.7 million shortfall, but those 3 big projects, they're about $4.8 million. So, we can keep our overlay and our regular maintenance stuff on track and going. It's just our projects, we're just going to have to wait until we get money for them. We could, if we had enough wheelage tax saved up, we could dip into that to try to advance something. Or, if you wanted another source, if you didn't want to wait, we could look at other sources of funding to move something up, but I guess that's my summary on it, and that's our proposal for how we think it should go.
Chairman, I have one question. Where does the Main Street of Edgerton funding come into this?
That would be municipal funding, which we're sitting okay with. So
They're gonna do that project in stages, whatever.
Oh,
Are we liable for the last coat on the top, or?
they asked if we would be willing to fund that, like the pavement on the top. Like when the city of Pipestone has done that, we've given them the money to cover essentially what our overlay would be. But, for our purposes, we don't need to dig up the entire road and ruin the base and, so that would be something that would have to go into here as well. They applied for that LRIP money for that, and it didn't work out. So, I maybe should have put that in here. I kind of forgot about that one actually, but it's not a long stretch, so it's
Well,
not,
just don't forget about us altogether.
Yeah, no, I still have that marked down. Our main problem here with this shortfall, that's all in our it's called regular funds, which is essentially rural. So we have municipal and regular. The municipal account is fine. We're doing fine there. It's the regular. So if this one block overlay did pop up,
Yeah, it's
or
gonna
what, shouldn't say pop up, it's scheduled, so.
It's gonna be 1 or 2 blocks at a time, it sounds like.
Right.
So it's not a big hit all at once.
Right, so that won't be a problem for us funding. It's the rural stuff out in the country. That's where we have the funding issue.
Thank you.
Yep.
I move for approval of the 5-year plan.
Okay, I would second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you for the visual aids, that helps a lot.
Yep, no problem. No problem, so. We'll get that updated on the website as well then, so. That being said, anybody have any other questions for me? Otherwise, I think that's it. That's all I have for today.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you.
All right, sounds good.
Kyle?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Kyle.
Hey, Kyle.
Did we get our guests on, Steve?
Yes, they're here. I see Dan and I see Sean on there too.
Okay.
Gentlemen, can you hear us? Dan, Sean?
This is Sean, I can. Good morning.
And this is Dan, I can.
All right.
Good morning, and thank you for having us this morning.
I think what I'll do is just have Dan and Sean go ahead and start introducing if you want to do just a quick summary intro of the proposed project. I did bring this to the board last year, so they are somewhat familiar with what's being requested, but I think just a summary refresher would be great for everyone, if you wouldn't mind.
Great. Can everyone see the presentation that we put up?
Yes.
And by the way, we'll send this to you when we're done today.
Thank you.
Yes, we can see it.
Great. So just a little introduction to what's going on in the state of Minnesota in terms of LiDAR. We want to give you a little background on who we are, what the history is. We want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota LiDAR plan and where Southwest Minnesota fits into that. And of course, this is all about the outreach and the status of where we're at. So we do want to bring you up to speed on where we are in terms of acquiring new LiDAR for the state of Minnesota, and not only acquiring the new LiDAR, but the changes that technology has brought And then I'm going to wrap this up with a particular ask about Southwest Minnesota as it relates to that. To introduce myself, I'm Dan Ross. I'm a member of the 3D Geomatics Committee. I also serve as the State Geographic Information Officer. I'm joined today by Sean Vaughn, who chairs the committee, and I'm just going to let Sean give you a little bit of background on who he is.
Thank you, Dan. Yes, so I'm with Minute Services at DNR, and I've been involved with LiDAR acquisition since our first LiDAR collection. And I'll talk a little bit about that in the slides coming up. We're going to begin today with launching right into some information and background about our committee, because that's the hub for coordination and communication of bringing new LiDAR to the state of Minnesota. Just to quickly introduce you to the committee, the biggest takeaway here is we are a very diverse group of subject matter experts in LiDAR and spatial data. And we created a committee that capitalizes on that by bringing everybody together, but it houses them in unique work groups so that we can have very strong and coordinated efforts for guiding LiDAR as well as all other spatial data. And we report to the Geospatial Advisory Council, as you see here on the bottom. So this ring here represents who we are, but today Dan and I come to you representing the Data Acquisition Work Group of the 3D Geomatics Committee. And as I mentioned, we are a chartered, I mentioned that we're underneath the GAC, but we're actually a sanctioned chartered committee. And I'm a co-chair along with Allison Slatz and Jerry Shervin. One of the things I want you to understand is that Minnesota has been a strong advocate for LiDAR. We began that first, well, this is an example right here of our 2002 white paper. We wrote this to advocate for bringing LiDAR in to mitigate flooding and use LiDAR-derived DEMs for flood, not only flood mapping, but flood modeling, really to mitigate inundation. What's really interesting about in the verbiage of back in 2002, if we take a look here on the left-hand side of this screen, what we marketed LiDAR for back then has not changed. What we're really coming here today to talk about is how the data has changed, and you're going to see some examples of that coming up. But the need for high-resolution data, correctly identifying and mapping flood hazard areas, efficiently and effectively mapping land and water resources. Those are all the same reasons why we advocate for new LiDAR today. Our committee, our team, we wrote the Minnesota LiDAR plan. You know, if you're going to take something on this large and bring LiDAR to the state of Minnesota, we really need a guide to plan and help steer this initiative. This is a massively large initiative. We really see it as your plan, as our plan. It's the plan for state of Minnesota. It's one plan. It's committee-led. It really comes from a collaboration of a lot of geospatial folks from the geospatial community. And coordination, you're going to hear me mention that word several times today. We are not doing this alone by any means. And so just over here, you can really see all of the organizations that are brought into this. But we brought in NRC, SSCD, we recognize and bring in the tribal nations, and the list just goes on and on. So that really demonstrates that this is all about outreach and coordination and bringing folks in. On the left-hand side here is an image of the Minnesota LiDAR plan. And there's a URL there, and maybe I'll drop it into the chat box later. But this is the detailed plan. And over here on the right, I want to bring your attention to what we call the Minnesota LiDAR plan story map. And a story map is a synthesized web-based version of the plan. And we really advocate for folks to use this for promotion materials, get a handle of the details of the plan. One of the things I want you to be aware of is that we've divided the state up into these management units we call LiDAR acquisition areas and LiDAR acquisition blocks. The areas are the larger regions of the state. We really recognize the role and the importance of counties in this initiative, and as well as watersheds. So if we take a focus to your area down here, we have two intersecting watersheds on the Missouri River and the Big Sioux. And that's why we have this small area over here. And you can see how we've tried as best we can to line up county boundaries with watersheds. And you're going to see that throughout some of the upcoming slides. But those are our LiDAR acquisition blocks. So just a little bit of background here. Now you know that we are a committee and we're guiding LiDAR acquisition for the state of Minnesota, but really what we're coming to you today also is to help you understand that there's grant funds out there available. We have the expertise in writing the grant and going through the grant fund process with the USGS, and we're going to be talking about that in some upcoming slides, but most importantly, it's about partnerships. And as you heard me mention just moments ago, the counties are our most recognized partners in this. And the more partners we bring into LiDAR acquisition, the more likely we are to gain points for the grant fund process right here. The other thing is the economies of scale. We try to collect in large LiDAR acquisition blocks to bring the cost down. Much of the cost of LiDAR is all in aircraft and mobilization. So 3DEP is the plan that I'm going to be talking about. This is the guiding plan and project under the USGS. It is known, the 3DEP acronym stands for the 3D Elevation Program. It is systematically guiding LiDAR acquisition across the state. It's scheduled to be completed by 2023. That's rapidly approaching. That's one of the reasons why there's a lot of emphasis on Minnesota. And really, this is set out a decade ago to form a national baseline, very consistent data across the country, and building a DEM to serve the U.S. national map. This is managed under the broad agency announcement process. This is some things that we just want you to be aware of. This is what we manage, but these are all recognized federal mechanisms for steering this effort. A lot of USGS cost sharing is coming into Minnesota, and I'm going to explain that as soon as I go to the right-hand side of this screen. But a good takeaway here is recognizing that we've brought together a lot of Minnesota partners to date who have contributed $3.15 million. The U.S. 3DEP process has contributed a little over $6 million, and other federal partners have brought in almost $500,000. All total, to date so far, about $9.7+ million, and you're going to see where that's been implemented in the state of Minnesota. But moving right on here, onto the right-hand side of the screen, what I want you to understand is that Minnesota is all great for one reason. It's because the existing LiDAR data that we have in hand that we collected in the years 2008 to 2012 is no longer compliant. It's good data. It still serves a purpose out there, but it is becoming dated. Almost all of it is now a decade old, and it no longer meets minimum base specifications according to the USGS. So that's why much of our whole state is now gray. And that's been upsetting to a lot of people, but one of the things I want you to understand is that we were in the first states to have an entire statewide collection completed in 2012. So it stands to reason that we're likely going to be the last state to have a new statewide collection. And that's one of the things that brings us to you today. Now, this process of 3DEP has some important deadlines. We're not going to get into all the details of that, but I want you to understand that October is a very critical month for us. This is where we reach out to partners who are looking to contribute to this effort. And then in November is when we submit the paperwork for the 3DEP process to be part of the funding mechanism through 3DEP. And of course, then there's a lot that happens there in the months following. And then February is another important one where partners contribute the funds based on the agreements set up in December through February. We can always circle back on those dates later if needed. So this, the next few slides here is going to be some background and introduction to where we've got some work going on across the state. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this slide. This is just to remind you of how we've divided the state up. I want to step right into recognizing the northeast corner of Minnesota. Our northeast forested area was a collection in this spring, so it is a spring 2021 collection. It is complete. It is at a high density of points, known as a LiDAR quality level 1 collection. That's what we're advocating for your area as well. And so we're really happy to have this completed. This is a great accomplishment for our team and for the state of Minnesota. That data will be coming available in about a year from now. So it does take about a year, and this is typical for LiDAR data to be available and suitable for public use about a year after collection. Taking a focus that is a little bit more related to you folks in your area, we have two different BAA requests down here. We submitted it last year all as one collection, but they've now been split, so the southeast and the southwest now stand on their own. We did have some LiDAR collection here in the southeast this spring. I'm going to talk about that on a slide coming up. In your area is scheduled for collection in 2022. This additional outreach that we're doing is to see if we can bring in additional partners and help fill in some gaps for funding. Looking closely at the southeastern part of the state, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to know that it was collected, most of it in quality level 1, which is the green hashed areas, with a very high density quality level 0 collected up here for the Seward County. And we don't have to spend a lot of time in trying to understand all of these colors, but the takeaway is that the area here around Rochester, Olmsted County, needs to be recollected, and that'll be collected in spring 2022, as well as the area in the orange hash marks down here. This will be collected in 2022. The area up in blue here has gone through the QA/QC process, and we will be evaluating this data along with the USGS once we have it in hand. This slide really indicates that we've done a lot of outreach in May of this spring. This was a lot of outreach in the upper Mississippi River LiDAR acquisition area. An awful lot of outreach has been going on in the in the central Mississippi River LiDAR acquisition block. And then certainly, sort of in your neck of the woods, our Minnesota River East and West outreach as well. We've also done some coordination with the Red River Valley, and our outreach continues. This is basically an ongoing weekly responsibility of this team. One of the things that we tend to just take and pause for a moment is to reflect on what is LiDAR. We know that when we do these outreach meetings, not everybody is up to speed and fully understanding what is LiDAR. So I'm going to step into this right now. LiDAR is an acronym that stands for the light detection and ranging. And if we just focus for a second here on this right-hand side, we have fixed-wing manned aircraft that is sending laser pulses very rapidly to Earth's surface, and that light reflects off of objects on Earth's surface. That can be at the ground, it can be trees, it can be buildings. And the time of travel back to the aircraft, knowing exactly where the aircraft is, we can put that all into a system, and from that we get a LiDAR point cloud, which you see reflected or illustrated down here in the lower right-hand side. So the more pulses that we send, and it is a tremendous amount of pulses, we can build a very dense point cloud. And that's the difference between this LiDAR acquisition and collect and the LiDAR we have in hand, is that it's incredibly dense. It's mapping our world in 3D. And this is where the world is going. The world is going into a technical capture of 3D, managing our world around us. And by that I mean buildings and infrastructure, as well as the geography of our surface. So now that we know that as an aircraft flying over and sending pulses down, we build the point cloud. I want to go right into this slide and help folks understand, if you don't already, that we can go into that point cloud, and the point cloud is classified. So you classify points into trees, in this example, trees here and bare earth here. And for example, from the classified points representing the bare earth, we can build something that what most people are familiar with is known as the digital elevation model. Whereas someone interested in forest applications would extract the trees and use that for their application. So the DEM is one of the most widely requested, most used data products in the state, as well as contours. So the land is built into a gridded surface. It's a tessellation of the landscape, and every individual grid cell, like you would see in this illustration here, has an X and a Y and a Z value. The Z is the elevation. The Z is what's captured from those laser pulses coming from the aircraft. When we travel around the state and we talk about what is LiDAR to different folks, and I've done this many, many times, a lot of our users, as I mentioned, are using the contours and the DEM, whereas some, it's really other products. it certainly is the point cloud, or it can be hydro-modified products from the digital elevation model. A lot of folks nowadays are much more interested in the human and the built infrastructure, the capture of the buildings, roads and signage like that, like I've mentioned. And then some other products. Vegetation is one of our most growing, our rapidly growing sectors of application for LiDARs, for mapping forests and individual trees, and you're going to see that coming up. But if we focus here on what I have in green on the bottom, is really recognizing that whatever we want to do with the LiDAR in the future, we first have to talk about acquiring the data, and that's why we're coming here today to cover this. So the workflow is typically data procurement and development. Dissemination is putting it out there for folks to get at it, and then of course user application. So now we're going to look at some examples of how high density LiDAR would be used. I'm a hydrologist, and one of my most important application of modern high density LiDAR is the intricate mapping of erosion on our landscape. We can take that point cloud, build it into the DEM, and from the DEM we can build explicitly, or model I should say explicitly, where water is flowing on landscape and what it's carrying into our rivers and our systems. MnDOT is one of our biggest partners in this, and they require a very high density quality level 1 collection for their mapping. And this is an example to help build your mind's eye into what is high density LiDAR. High density LiDAR, as I've mentioned a couple times now, captures our world in 3D. This is the I-35, Highway 35 interchange in Duluth, and we can see how it's mapping the trees, the signage, the poles, the lines. And this is what modern day high density LiDAR is all about. So you can imagine folks going into this point cloud and pulling out what they need. Also, we want to mention that energy, as I said. Energy is a big user now because the LiDAR is so dense that it's mapping the individual power lines. And along with that, we have cultural and historical applications. So a lot of folks want to know a little bit about the history, or the comparison, I should say, between what we have in hand today and what we are advocating for new LiDAR. If we look in the upper left-hand side here, we have some conifer trees captured in our existing LiDAR, and over here on the right-hand side, we see much greater definition. Most importantly, we can really see how it picks up the deciduous trees in this example here by looking at the existing LiDAR we have in hand here on the left-hand side and comparing that to the high density. And our takeaway there is really understanding that this isn't about mapping just the tops of the trees anymore. This is about mapping the branches and the trunk of the trees, getting a very high, accurate, and detailed mapping of the land under the trees, as well as brush and other shrubbery. So it is incredibly powerful data and of great use to a lot of future applications. So now we're going to step into a little bit about where things are at in some of our additional outreach. I mentioned that we're doing a lot of outreach in the upper Mississippi River area, so right now we are in the central portion of the state, somewhat northward. A lot of forest application here, so we're seeing forestry really being the driver here, DNR Forestry, and helping us build partnerships for the timber industry in this area, and that's why we're doing a lot of outreach in that area. As I mentioned, we've been doing a lot of work and outreach in what we call the central Mississippi River area, especially in the Twin Cities metro area. A lot of interest in very high density data there. As of course you could envision that's for mapping the human infrastructure, and the buildings in particular. So, and we're conducting a lot of outreach in these counties on the northern tier of the metro area. And I'm coming to you today right here from the northern part of Chisago County. We have a LiDAR acquisition scheduled with in Becker County in this little part of the watershed up here to the north. This is a FEMA-funded LiDAR acquisition project, and there's a lot of coordination going on in the surrounding area of the Red River Valley for a LiDAR collection there as well. Moving down more closer to your area here, this spring we conducted some outreach in the Minnesota River East, and the next slide illustrates that we've also done coordination and collaboration in the Minnesota River West. And so, for example, these are some of the, this is the cost over here on the right-hand side. we need to bring in partner contributions here for upwards of about $2 million. And then if we were accepted for a grant request here, we could count on the USGS 3 debt bringing in a little over $1.2 million, just as one example of the dollar amounts needed in these blocks. So, this is where I stop. We're stepping into the portion where we wrap up, and Dan is going to be carrying us through to the end.
Thanks, Sean. So to give you a little bit more background, how we're running these are the state, my office, Mingeo, is serving as the fiscal agent for these grants that we get from the federal government, and the fiscal agent for how we take partner monies and siphon that through the grant process back to USGS to cover the total cost of the agreement that we have with them. So we're establishing funding agreements with both local providers, that can be counties, that can be cities, that can be those sorts of things, watershed districts, that sort of thing, and my office is putting together those agreements. Currently in the southwest part of the state, that we have a commitment from Nobles County and Minnesota DNR. I'm going to go through some costs with you in a minute, but some of those are contingents on getting some partnerships from some others, and I'll talk about that in the next slide. We are continuing to push for a spring LiDAR acquisition. The reason we're doing that is because the snow pushes the vegetation down, of course, and we get a really good bare earth read, which is why we really want to see a spring collection. And we're promoting that for next spring for the southwest area of the state. We not only want to see our county partners join us in the funding if they can, but we also know the importance of the data to them, and that the data has to be accurate. So there's opportunities to participate in the quality assurance from a surveying aspect, or from us working with 3D Geo and USGS to make sure that we have the best quality data that we get from the vendors. And then, of course, sharing within your county to bring additional understanding to other partners in your county offices. Can you go to the next slide, please, Sean? I already mentioned that you don't have to be a decision maker or a stakeholder, and we're reaching out to everybody. We recognize that the usefulness of LiDAR touches many different folks. Everybody from transportation to hydrology and water flow in your areas to your GIS folks there, and even your transportation. I saw the Public Works gentleman was on before we came on, and this LiDAR is going to show the width of the roads and all kinds of stuff. It's that impressive from where we have come from with the QL3 to the QL1. So there's many different ways to collaborate, I think, is really what this signifies. What we really wanted to get down to is the ask. We're seeking about $81K from local partners. That's out of a total cost of about $1.1 million for the area in the southwest that you see there, in terms of the Missouri River Big Sioux area that covers the 5-county area there of Pipestone, Murray, Rock, Nobles, and Jackson. That's about 3,070 square miles. That ends up to a cost of our local partners of about $26.38 per square mile. That's not a cost that we've seen in other areas of the state, so that's the kind of support we're looking for from you, is to help cover that 81K. And I guess I'll leave it at that. I think there's probably one more slide maybe. Or is that the last slide, Sean? Yeah. Just a little bit more information about us and how you can reach us in case you have questions after this presentation is over today. But at this point, I think Sean and I would like to open it up for questions from you and make sure that we can share whatever information you're seeking at this point.
Go ahead, Dan.
Dan, this is Dan Wildermuth. You mentioned that it averages out to about $25 per square mile, and that's not a cost you've seen elsewhere in the state. How does it compare with other costs in the state?
Well, the cost of LiDAR really depends on the topography in your area and the vegetation and things like that. So in the entire Red River, their costs there are going to be about $135 a square mile. Southeast Minnesota was about 140, but that was really driven by two counties that were seeking the highest level of LiDAR. That would be 30 plus points per meter and an accuracy, a much higher accuracy. And those are the two blue counties, LeSueur and Olmsted. And then in Northeast Minnesota, we were running about $130 a square mile. And that was really because of the forested areas of the state and the topography. So I think what's nice about the Missouri River Big Sioux is we got a lot of input from NRCS state office here in Minnesota that covered a lot of the southwest because you're an agricultural area, and there's big interest by NRCS there to have good LiDAR data. They contributed, in those 5 counties, they contributed about $237,000. MinGeo, my office, contributed to this as well down in southwest Minnesota. And as I said before, Nobles has committed to participate, but their commitment depends on participation from other counties.
You'd also referred to other partners within our county government. As you know, we have other aerial photography that we use as well. So would this be able to replace that, or this would just be in addition to that? It's 2 different programs.
Well, aerial imagery and LiDAR are not the same thing. They're captured in different ways, and they both have a different purpose. I guess my response to that is we tend to overlay the imagery on top of the LiDAR, the elevation model, in order to get a true sense of what the Earth surface really looks like, both in terms of human infrastructure and agriculture and other natural landforms out there. Sean, anything you would add there?
No, I think that covers it, Dan.
So we really recommend that you're probably still going to need both, especially assessors in urban areas like to see, growth and change in building footprints and things like that.
One thing that's important, I guess I do have something to add to that, Dan, is one of the things that's important is LiDAR facilitates aerial imagery acquisition because LiDAR is what provides the geopositioning of the imagery. And as our existing LiDAR data gets more and more dated, folks who want to have new aerial imagery acquisition are strong advocates for the LiDAR data, simply just because we're seeing changes and shifts in the landscape because the data is just so old. We typically cover that in more lengthy presentations that we give.
But I understand that the resolution of yours in the 3D imaging is far superior to what we're doing now. So I guess I don't understand why it could not replace what we're doing now. I'd certainly be interested in seeing what cost savings there'd be, and we'd have to check with our assessor as well too and see what her requirements are. It'd be something I'd like to look into.
Dan, this does come with the imagery, correct? It's just not.
This does not. No, this is strictly LiDAR acquisition. Nobles is doing their imagery as part of it at the same time when we do this.
And that's something that Pipestone could also do that?
Sorry, go ahead.
So Pipestone could also do imagery if we chose?
Yes, but not as part of the grant program that we're asking you to participate in here. That would be a separate effort.
And a separate cost.
And a separate cost, yes.
So I think what Commissioner Wildermuth is talking about, comparing it to our pictometry flights that we do periodically here versus what the LiDAR program would do. And I do understand that if we have the 5 counties here and you're looking for 81,000 that are, your ask is really about 16,200 per county, which is for the data as a cost of this. Sure, it's money, but it's trying to do it on our own, and it could be very expensive, and plus all the players you have in it, the amount does not seem to be that great to split it up between the 5 counties, come up with 81,000.
Yeah, and in fact, you guys we've not seen partnerships like yours that are achieving $26.38 a square mile. Everybody else is up around 100 or more. So this is really, I don't want to say it's unusual. What I would say is it's really great that USGS and the other partners, including my office, have come together to really cover a high percentage of the costs in southwest Minnesota.
Right.
This is Sean. What I'd add to that part of the conversation is that when we submitted all of this paperwork, really what you're seeing is the economies of scale. The original request to the federal government through the 3-DEP plan was all of the areas that you see in color down here. So it was the southeast and the southwest. So you're really seeing the economy of scale benefit, and I don't know which of you made the comment about if you were to take this on individually, but the cost would be, like Dan is alluding to, at least $100 more per square mile on top of the ask already. So, but just wanted you to be aware it's the economies of scale that we're really seeing here, and as Dan said, the contributions from NRCS and others as well.
We didn't include it in these slides, and we probably should have, but you're going to get the DEM. The state is going to produce the contours for southwest Minnesota, because we know, topography doesn't stop at the county border, so we're going to produce that statewide. We are going to have data storage and dissemination, but any funding partner gets their own set of data. We will likely ask if you're interested in participating in quality assurance. You know your landscape better than anybody else. So there's ample opportunities to participate, and we want to work with you however we can, and not have you have to have the burden of storing your own data and trying to figure out how you're going to make derived products and such from that. We need some of those same derived products, so we're going to create them.
Also, Dan, if you'd excuse my lack of knowledge on this, but you said that yours is fixed wing. So what makes this different than what the federal government with their ARROS project is? Is it not comparable?
Yeah, ARROS project is not, that's satellite imagery.
Yes.
So that's not fixed wing.
Yes, but is the result, is the end product still as high quality or not?
No, it's not near the quality. ARROS data is not near the quality of what we're going to collect here as part of LiDAR. They're down in the 1 to 2 meter range. We're talking about 8 pulses per meter.
And can we justify? I love the more accurate we can be, the better. But can we justify the cost for it? Yes, it'd be nice to have a true 3D image of everything out there in the county, but that's, like I said, that's a lot of data and a lot of cost.
Well, it looks like.
I don't know what the cost value proposition is really up to you as county administrator and county officials to decide on. I hope you're hearing me say that you're not going to see these kinds of costs per square mile again for what you're going to get back.
Kyle, do you know specifically what is the cost for our county based on square miles?
If we just divided the 81,000 by the 5, we'd be looking at 16.2. I know Rock County was considering doing it by the mile, and it varied from 16,000 to 18,000. It was very minimal variation since we're all about identical in size.
Okay.
And we've had group meetings between the counties, and I think there's support all 5 county-wide. It's just a matter of taking it to the county boards for them to approve. And I believe every county is intending to use their buffer compliance fund for the expenditure towards the project.
Well, to me, based on the low cost per mile compared to everywhere else in the state, and the difference in how effective the imagery looks based on what we were just shown, I guess I would move to approve our participation. Is there a second?
I'll second, but I still have more questions.
That's fine.
Yeah, for purpose of discussion, yes.
ahead.
What would our future costs be as far as updates? This is going to be a snapshot now. How long will this data be relevant for us, and what's it going to cost us to maintain this system going forward?
Well, I can't predict what the costs are going to be in the future. Obviously, the technology is getting much better, and that has helped to drive this cost way down from where it was before. But the quality is that much better as well. So we were 10 years between collects here, essentially, maybe even a little more in southwest Minnesota. So this isn't something that we're going to collect every 2 or 3 years like you would aerial imagery. Just because some of the cost involved in doing that. But we are recommending that we collect this every 10 years because of the technology changes and the quality changes that we're going to get.
Okay. And Kyle, I certainly like your point of using our buffer strip enforcement money, so that'll cover our entire cost of this. It'll have no impact on our levy.
Correct. Yep.
That sheds a whole new perspective for me on it.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Who has access to this data? Are farmers going to be able to access this data also, or is it just public people, or is it, what's the procedure for accessing it even?
That's a great question. And because we're getting federal dollars, they require the data to be public. So yes, farmers would have access to it, and it would probably help them in their precision ag because they're going to get a very good topographic understanding of where their lands are.
Because of the high resolution nature of this, are there any concerns from the public as far as expectations of privacy? Because it's getting so minute, I would assume that you can, practically read license plate numbers off this, couldn't you?
Yeah, we've looked at the data practices aspect of this, although the data is high resolution. We haven't had any feedback from any citizens or organizations regarding concerns related to privacy.
And do you filter out then, like vehicles you talk about? In fact, the graphic you got up shows the roadways, but you don't show individual vehicles. That's filtered out of the image.
Yeah, that's part of the classification process. Certain features are taken out, and the separation of layers into different structures. You heard Sean talk about human infrastructure. We're going to do buildings out of there, right? You're going to do first return. You're going to do bare earth, those sorts of things. We're able to derive those kinds of products into separate layers.
I've also had conversations with local engineers, who do survey work and things like that. They're very supportive of this also. So, yeah, just realize that it's not just a few people. It's crop consultants. There's a ton of people that are going to be able to utilize this data.
Mm-hmm. And then
right.
One last question. Our IT director happens to be in the room as well, too. Bill, do you have any comments that you'd like to share with us all? Any ideas on this? Or
I would support this.
You would support it?
Both information technology and principle.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Bill did show me what our LiDAR example is, what we have for Pipestone County when they did that. Was it 2008 or whatever? It's virtually all green, and you can hardly make out any. You can't tell depths of ravines or creeks or anything like that. It's just all kind of green, and
You can't even see shapes.
no, there's really no shapes. You can kind of see in some cases what a roof might look like, but this is like night and day difference into what we had to, what Dan Ross was talking about, those earlier slides when they did the first flights. It's changed a lot since then.
The 3D and the high.
Oh yeah,
high
it's just
resolution.
totally, it's like night and day.
So then, to recap, then Kyle, you're thinking our cost is going to be less than $17,000 on this, and it's going to be able to come out of the buffer strip enforcement.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, I'm certainly.
Yeah, right now, to recap the buffer fund, I have 160,000 in there. I'm anticipating another payment from the state this year for 91,000 additional, and we've spent 75,000 to date on the current projects that we've done. So this would be a minor expense out of that account.
Good.
Any other questions?
Are you going to use LiDAR for enforcement for the buffer strips?
That along with the imagery, correct?
Because you can overlay those layers too.
Right, yeah.
And Dan, just to recap, this flight would be next spring, correct? Spring of '22?
Yeah, that is correct. We're asking, leaf off, snow gone. That's what we're promoting for these collects or these acquisitions.
So if you were to have a wet spring and there was a lot of flooding, I assume you'd have to wait until that ended, or?
Or we could do a fall collect, or they could collect after the flooding's gone. I think what you saw in Southeast there that Sean presented, there was some early flooding, and they did do some reflight work after the flooding was gone.
Okay.
So we would make sure that that happens, and that's part of the reason we want our counties to participate in the quality assurance. Like I said, you know the landscape better than we do, and we want you involved in looking at that and buying into that data acquisition and making sure that it meets your needs and that you're happy with the accuracy that we're getting.
Any other questions? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Dan and Sean.
Thank you for the opportunity again, Commissioners. Steve, Kyle, thanks.
Thank you.
If you have any additional questions, we'll send this presentation to you, Kyle and Steve, so you can distribute it as needed or desired.
Okay,
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, and then just to finish up, is there any other questions on the LiDAR? And then I also provided you just a summary of our SSTS loan and grants program. I put this together for the Clean Water Council, who will be coming to the Southwest later this fall. Just wanted to give you a summary since I put it together to kind of reflect on where the county is at and what we've provided in support to residents for septic upgrades.
I guess the only question I'd have for Kyle on that is, so a part of this then is low-income grants then for septic upgrades?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, my question is that of fairness. So if we've got individuals that have already gone through the loan program where they've got to assess their taxes and they're paying for their septic upgrades that they've done a few years ago, is there any cost sharing to help alleviate any of theirs? They're just kind of, because they did it before,
Right.
they're not qualified for this grant. So the fairness part bothers me a little bit.
Well, but there's a very limited number of dollars of grants that are out there. It's on a first come, first served basis, so we can't guarantee anyone to get it or not get it. The legislature did just put another 1.5 million, I think, towards a loan program or a grant program for septic upgrades. And annually, we're getting about, the most we can probably get is about $40,000.
This has been an ongoing program for a number of years.
This has been going on for, since 2000, when did we get our first grants? 2008 is when we got our first allocation for the grant dollars. And we've had the grant program going along, working fairly well, but yes, you can't allow someone to get a grant for after the fact. So I mean, everything has to be done prior to the septic going in. So if you've put it in already, there's no going backwards.
Yeah, and I understand that's one of the realities of the program.
Right.
And
Yep.
I certainly do support the concept that we've got to help with these septic systems. But again, the fairness between grants and loans and tax assessments.
Yep, I understand.
And so forth. I wish in a perfect world that things were fair, and I know it's not always fair.
But I think countywide, I think we're doing a really good job of providing opportunities and dollars for the general public to be able to update their systems without a major significant impact on their financial status, even though it prolongs it a little bit, but.
And there are some pretty significant income guidelines for those grants. I mean, it's not just for anyone.
Right, it's based on USDA housing
Yeah.
loans.
Maybe too deep into the weeds, but on those particular grants, if that individual happens to sell that property the next year, is that grant still forgiven? Because you could have a person use the grant, improve their property, and then flip it the next year.
Right, the grant application that we've put together requires them to be there for 7 years.
Okay, so there are provisions
So
for that.
we are not going to provide grant dollars to somebody that's going to sell their house next year.
I was hoping there was provisions for that.
Right.
Thank you.
So, okay, thank you much.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you. Want to take a short break or turn on?
I would rather keep going if it's all right
Okay,
with you
that's
guys.
fine. Hey, Renee?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi there.
Hi.
All right, so we would like to understand more of the parameters that you guys would like to set in place for collaborating with you on the Veterans Memorial. If we continue to do that, we just want to make sure that we have an understanding of those parameters, that we can get them written down, that we're all on the same page so we can make a decision as a group together if we want to collaborate further. Yes.
Yeah, I guess this came to my attention based on comments from members of the public, some of whom are here, that, we just haven't made any progress on this issue. It's been several years. I think the last times the committee met, I kind of got the impression from those that were involved with it that maybe it had, evolved into something bigger than we anticipated or thought of, and, maybe a little more guidance from this board would be helpful to, maybe outline what is or is not possible or thought of from our perspective. So I guess I'm just throwing it out to all of us to see what you're thinking.
Can I say something?
Sure.
So, back in August of 2019, I was here for the second time asking for part of the old central school and some rock to help us build to a Veterans Memorial here in Pipestone. I have not heard anything. Of course, we had COVID, and now that that's it, we've met as a group again as veterans to bring one here to Pipestone. We've been inactive, just like a lot of things, because, and there's nothing we can do about that, but yes, we still want to move forward. Yes, we still want a Veterans Memorial here in Pipestone. And with some parameters in place, we have to look at the whole picture. Is this what our veterans want? Is this what they need? Is this something we can work with? Can we work with you? Let's figure it out.
Yeah, I certainly am in favor of moving forward with this. Like you said, it's been kind of disjointed over the years.
Right.
And I don't want to make any assumptions that there's any specific parameters. So we're really starting at square one here. Let's not go into this with any preconceived ideas. So I certainly am open to keeping this momentum, getting this momentum started again. I should say keeping it going, because it has kind of died. It's kind of been stagnant. So yeah, I think it needs to be looked at. But let's not present the image that there's preconceived ideas.
Okay.
It's
All right.
Would you guys agree with
Yeah,
that?
I guess just some comments that I had heard, and I guess take it for what it is, but, I think some got the impression that it was becoming more of a city thing rather than a county-wide thing. I don't know that there was a lot of county-wide involvement, and I think there maybe should be if, it's going to be a county memorial.
The reason we started here is because the county owns Central School, and that was our plan, to put it there after looking at 8 to 10 locations. So that's why we started here, to get part of the old Central School location.
Okay.
That's where we're at.
Okay, and I guess just from my perspective, I don't know that the central school property is where I'm envisioning that happening. I mean, we may have other uses for that property, and I guess at this time, I'm not interested in committing that property to that use or any use at the moment.
And I understand you want to put it back in taxable income. We've spoken about that before for the county. I get that. Other towns have the memorials. So as far as a county memorial, am I gonna go to Edgerton and say, we're building a Pipestone County Veterans Memorial in Pipestone? You wanna come with us? You wanna partner with us? Same with the other little towns, Holland. They already
has
have one.
Right.
Are they gonna want to help us build one in Pipestone? I don't know that. I can guess, but that's why we say Pipestone Veterans Memorial. We don't say Pipestone, we haven't said Pipestone County Memorial in any of our meetings, so.
But to me, if it's
County-
just a city thing, then maybe you should be talking to the city council rather than this board.
Well, like I explained, the reason why we're here is because of the old central. So we've never gotten an answer on that from the county commissioners.
I guess I'm a little bit confused. The perception that I'm hearing is that Pipestone County doesn't have a Veterans Memorial today. Is that what you're saying? But we do. You go upstairs in the courthouse, there's a very impressive Veterans Memorial there.
Right.
So I don't like the idea that we don't have one. Yes, we do have one, and it's a county-wide one.
Right. Well, I meant a county position on an outside memorial. I don't
And that's
mean
where we need
to.
to discuss
Right.
this, yeah. And again, I want to acknowledge the fact that we do have one. And do we need to have another one someplace else, or do we need to enhance what we've got now? So I'd certainly be willing to discuss this, but let's discuss it. There's a lot of different feelings and emotions and opinions out there. But let's not go into the idea that we don't have one. We do have one.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that at all.
And I guess to go along with what you're saying, I guess my thought was we are looking to enhance what we currently have to include those people in service events from whenever ours ends upstairs to the present time.
I kind of feel the same way, Luke, that it needs to be updated, it needs to be enhanced, it needs to be expanded. But let's not discount what we've got now, so.
Right. So as county commissioners, is part of Central School lot available for a Veterans Memorial for Pipestone?
You're asking opinions at this point.
Well, I'm asking for an answer. Is it available?
Mr.
We've
Chair.
asked twice if that's something you need to talk about more and give us a straight answer. That's fine.
My question is, if we enhance what we've got now, how would enhancing that on a site other than the county courthouse be applicable? I don't know, but I'm willing to discuss that.
Okay.
Did you see there was a question back there?
Sure.
Yes, I'm sitting here listening to this. Dan, you say we have a Veterans Memorial in the courthouse?
Yes?
What is wrong with having something, every town I drive through, they got a beautiful Veterans Memorial only. Out on a main road where you can see it, where the people, when they drive through, the little towns of Egan and Trent even have them. Are you guys open to a different location than the school? I mean, I could think of a couple, like Fairgrounds for one thing, between that round roof building and your Pipestone County ground sign, somewhere where people come through town and see this beautiful memorial. Upstairs in the courthouse, to me, just don't get it. I mean, I really think we need something that's outside. People visit Pipestone, they see this. Another location I thought about, and I don't think Luke was open to it, I think we discussed a little bit, Luke, is Brown School's gonna be gone, right along Highway 30. I understand, well, that's taxable ground again, depending on what you do with the land. Beautiful place for it, absolutely.
And property we don't own,
Yeah, right, so far. So,
and we won't.
yeah, well, maybe we can get it.
Jim, do you have?
Are you open to different locations than if we,
what do we do with the existing stuff? What do we do with that beautiful Civil War statue we got out there? What do we do with the tank we got out there? What do we do with the plaques we got inside the building here already? Are you proposing relocating those? So that's all in one spot, or we can have separate ones?
Memorial out in the open where people, when they drive through town, or even when I drive by, I see it
Yeah.
as a veteran. I mean, being in a courthouse, I mean, that's, I think other towns probably have stuff in their courthouse too, maybe.
Yeah.
But they also have the memorial outside.
Well, you could have it outside of this building.
Location, horrible.
Yeah. And I agree with your idea of the Brown property, right on Highway 30 at the intersection. So you're gonna get a lot of traffic.
Absolutely.
Anything you do here is just local.
It's local stuff. This is all local. I agree with that. But we need to get it out in the open for the public too. Look at Edgerton's, beautiful along Main Street. Absolutely beautiful.
So it's okay to be downtown there, but not here,
I didn't say that, but I'm saying it needs to be more visible, Lou.
right?
Okay, along a main highway. Every town I go through, it's along a main highway, so people can see it. So, how many people from out of town are gonna drive by the courthouse?
Not as many as we'd like.
Exactly. I agree. So,
The only problem I see with the Brown property would be the access, with DOT to get into it. They'd have to come in from the south, but that can be done with signage, but.
to me, that'd be ideal.
I think the bigger issue there is we don't own the property.
No, we
won't
don't. We
Probably
don't.
own the property. And
Does the school actually own the property?
Yes,
Yeah.
it belongs to the district.
We can purchase it from them or something.
All you need is a parcel like on the west side of the school, that open ground there.
Exactly.
but like you say, if you want a highway location, obviously the fairgrounds property would be a possibility since we already own it.
The problem with that,
Fairground property's ideal too.
that's so wet in there. Every time it rains, we have trouble with fair time cars tearing it up. It's so wet in there.
Well, that'd be one drawback. I mean,
Maybe
things
a
would be built up a
tile
little
or-
too, I mean.
Yeah.
But out there in the viewing of the public is mandatory as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it needs to be where there's a lot of traffic.
Yeah, in Highway 30, going east of 75 intersection, you don't have that much traffic. 90% of the traffic is 23.
23, and you're catching all that by, yeah. You're catching it from all four directions, so.
You're still not gonna
That's
buy
my theory.
property
My
for
vote.
something like that.
Property north of
You're still
the
not gonna buy property for something like that.
transit building would be visible.
Right, but has a restricted use for transit only, or, doesn't it?
The building, the property next door to it is the vacant lot.
Oh, that lot.
The lot
Yeah,
is,
that would be,
When you guys want to make a garage, parking lot.
Well, I'm talking, if you look at Brown School to the west of it, between the school and State Farm, I think it is, there's a big open area in there where they play football and stuff, practice football with the young kids and stuff. If you guys could get a parcel of that.
Does
I think
anybody
is
know
it-
how much area or square footage we would need for something outside? If anybody,
depends what the vision is, I guess.
Edgerton's isn't all that big, but it's absolutely beautiful.
That's only one lot.
Is it one lot?
It's a corner lot, but
Yeah, it was a corner lot there.
that was donated for the purpose.
I like that word donate.
Well, you can approach the school on that.
I'm thinking that the biggest situation right now is, and please understand, my position is very neutral. I'm for both civilian side and as a county side. So please understand my position is neutral. But I do think that the problem is that veterans are feeling as though it's not important if we're not standalone, if it's not just for us. We're sharing it with the county courthouse, where it's not special when it's not standalone. And I think that's where the vision has always been, that we would be on a different property, is because it's special to us that way, because it's dedicated to us for our service, for our sacrifice. And it's a place where people can go to reflect. And then my other concern is, with it being on courthouse property, what is the Historical Society going to have to say about it? then we're gonna have to be within their guidelines. And then now, what we're envisioning as a community, or a committee, is not able to put our vision to fruition because we have so many rules going against us.
Right.
That I could see the committee kind of fizzling out when you have so many rules going against you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where we're struggling as a committee. Is that fair?
Fair.
I don't want to speak for everybody, but
And who sits on this committee now?
It's myself, and it was Bruce. I've talked with Steve about this. I think Dan should probably go on the committee, because he's probably the only other veteran.
5 years,
board.
yeah, I had 5 years active duty. I'd be more than happy to serve on this committee.
So, maybe you could, get the committee back together and, try to get some involvement from people in communities, throughout the county and,
See where the people would like to have it.
yeah, see what you come up with as far as a location or,
It turns out that public opinion would like it there, I would be averse to have the county donate that ground for that project. But, the school has merit also.
It's got a lot more traffic.
It's got more
west of
area.
the stoplights than east to the stoplights. Because you're catching the interstate traffic from the northeast to the interstate. Going east, you just get what's going to Laverne, basically.
well, like you say, maybe that lot behind the transit, would be an
It's
option.
an option.
That's right on the 23.
If we get down to that point.
The lot behind the transit garage is right on 23.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, unless I can add you to our committee,
Sure.
and our next meeting, we will invite you. As of today, the Old Central School is out. Is that correct? Is that what I'm understanding from you?
We don't actually own it, we have custody.
To me, if you don't like the courthouse location, why would across the street be any better? It's not gonna get
Well-
the traffic you're talking about or whatever.
And that's where we left it. We left it with you, Dan, unless we can invite you to our next meeting. We'd
Yeah.
love to have you on it. As a committee, we will decide from here where to go.
Because we still don't know the scope, the footprint of the project.
That's
You know,
right.
How many square feet do you need?
That's
What's
right.
the concept? So it's so in flux right now. We need to get more concise concept before we can find a site. We have to know how big a site we need, so.
And the preliminary that we've done, adjustments can be made, and we'll go from there. But,
Question back there.
Sure.
Jim's got another question.
Yeah, Jim.
Yeah, what's the size of that lot in Edgerton roughly?
150 by 150.
Something like that.
all right.
And yeah, I'd be more than willing to serve. We still have to take, it's an appointment, right? So we
Right,
still have
we've
to
got
take
that
a vote
on,
it, yeah.
I talked with Steve about that.
Yeah. But if my other commissioners will
Yeah, that's
agree to
fine.
have me sit on this committee, I'd be more than happy to do that, so.
Sure.
I think another question that we had considered or had asked in our meeting is, if we were to collaborate, are we going to have help funding?